In the heart of the northwest province lies Lichtenburg, gateway to the holiday playgrounds of thousands of South Africans, and a town which is surrounded by farms, big game resorts and safari lodges. But before we get to the finish line at the Lichtenburg Raceway, there was a lot of racing to be done in and around this laid-back town. There was a buzz for the registration and the start of the 2007 Rustenburg Regional 200-kilometre event, a tough race with no less than 7 categories, stretching from quad bikes, motorbikes through to special vehicles and production cars. The proud sponsors Lichtenburg and Rustenburg Toyota, Rustenburg Wimpy and the Van Vieren Group were ready to present a race that would thrill and delight the participants while enchanting spectators with all its thrills and spills.
Ons het maar verlede jaar ons voertuig heeltemal weer uit mekaar uitgehaal en weer aan mekaar gesit. We gaan gekyk na ons skokbrekers, dit geherstel. Daar was nie baie probleme nie. Ons het ons raamwerk en goed is nog alles reg. Ons het geen herstelwerk daar nodig gehad nie. Die voertuig lyk redelik goed vandag.
And at the start of a racing calendar jam-packed with events that would challenge man and machine, that kind of care was very necessary.
Ja, ek nog seker die afgelope maand heavy baie gegym want ek het gehoor die kompetisie hierdie jaar baie straf. Ja, so ek het gegym en fiksheid altyd en op my bike soveel tyd moontlik spandeer.
In this game, fitness certainly produces the desired results, particularly for those who get a clean start and are away, where the recent drought, dust, has been a big problem.
I'm pulling off first, and it's cool because there's the second runners and the guys behind me are going to have quite a bit of dust, so it'll work in my favour.
Right. And your confidence of winning today? Do you reckon you're going to take it?
We'll see what happens.
In the Yamaha camp, they were hoping for a good placing.
Oh, well, I hope so, because that guy is very fast and Ron Roberts as well is very fast. So we will see. My Yami is looking good today, so I'm feeling fine today. Maybe I can claim the first place today.
In the special vehicles or space van class, they were the usual suspects and the entry that had most people talking. The big motorite bat of Evan Hutchison and the sleek silver and black colours of Motorite, the 2005 SA champion. But he would have to contend with the Naeem Mosaji Rayhan Borhanya combination, as well as Gary Bertolt and his navigator Henry Costain, who were out there to give their Atlas Copco Porter a run. The big bat was off first, a dust-free start, if you stay ahead, that is. The total porter of Shamir Variawa stepped up to the line next, while former national champion Richard Schilling and Chris Davies led away the S-Class competitors. Hutchison and his co-driver Akim Bergman were into their stride quickly. Unfortunately, they soon had a large mechanical. While Bertolt was making the porter sing along quite nicely, thank you very much. Shamir Variawa has long been touted as a bright talent, but last year he had an unsettling year and needed to start off 07 on a good note. And Schilling in the Plastotech race car just does his thing, like he has for the past 25-odd years. Mosaji and Bodiana were preparing for the start of the ABSA Off-Road Series in Darling in the Western Cape and was sorting out a few small things, with Variawa chasing hard. Gil Nel, with his new navigator Sandra Labeskaghni riding shotgun, was out taking his Bosel truggy for a spin over 200 k's. With the Nashua Mobile crew Mike Whitehouse and his nav Graham Thornton taking their charge for a run in preparation for a long season. Mike Kennelly and Colin Haywell were going well early on and were up into the top 5 in Class A in the Magwheel Surgeon racing entry, while the big bangers in the production car class were also letting it all hang out. Herman de Villiers and Willie Prinsloo from the Koppel Club charging along. Bloemfontein-based Rowacon crew Peter Ruthven and Deval Boshoff had the bit between their teeth and were up into the top 10. While their stablemates, brothers David and Gary White, were enjoying their first long outing together. Laverskachny had his nav Rickus Erasmus in the Toyota. And this is what flying aficionados call having a near miss. Or something like that. Henry and Marisa Matten demonstrating how to go the wrong and the right way, all in one easy move. And I think that's called a little argument. Henk Bester and Ernie Grissel from Vryburg had their Toyota going nicely and were setting the pace in Class E. With Henny Lemmer and Jean-Ray Coetzee keeping the pressure right on them. The Prinsloo Recovery Toyota of Hatzog Prinsloo and Arthur Bester from the Fairwest Club were up into the top 4, where they would stay throughout. And in Class D, it was Hendrik van der Linde who, with his co-driver Andries Meinhardt, led the category. The prologue entry with Derek de Wit at the wheel and Pieter de Wet in the co-pilot seat were fourth in Class B. While this rather funny-looking contraption belonged to Tippy and Theo Janssen van Rensburg, also from Vryburg. Henco Motor Engineering's Dewald Hutting and Duke de Preer from the Barberspan Club led in Class F by quite a long way. And Herbie would have been proud. That's of S21, Mick Westhuizen and Keith Solomon. The fire engine red special of Leon and Kevin Barker was in the colours of Leon Service Centre and were third in Class S. While Renko van Niekerk and Jacobus Jacobs had just chased into second spot in the same class. But with 200 long kilometres ahead of them, the bikes had lined up in Lichtenburg too, and with these guys, it's hell for leather from the word go, and that is pun intended. Clark of the course, Piet Swanepoel, himself a former national off-road chap, sets the races off. And it wasn't long before the pecking order was established. Owen Warren in the open category was straight into contention. With Johan Visser chasing hard through and in the dust. In the 125cc class, Arrow Racing's Dylan Ings was throwing down the gauntlet to the 14 other racers in the category. While Dennis Williams in the open cat followed closely. He was second in his class, and 125 leader Jurgens Potgieter on a Linux Yamaha leading his. The dust and heat was certainly a factor as Tyrone Morris in the colours of Roberts Racing made his appearance in the Senior B race. Eugene Coetzee was leading the open section. With Stephen Williams from the Roost next, third in the 250s. Tim Dawson in the 200cc's was flying, but then so were a whole host of competitors who had their eye on a podium finish. The hardy spectators, those who didn't mind the odd bit of dust going into strange places, were enjoying themselves immensely. The quad bikes was a feast of really tight racing as Corey Swart steamed by in the Pro 450 class. Closely followed by Kitty Oberholzer in the open class. With Aldo Santos from Daytona also in the Pro 450 class keeping up the pace. But the man they were all chasing in the open category was Willy van der Merwe, who'd eked out a solid lead in his class over Oberholzer. But 200 Ks are a long way to go and anything can happen on the way to the Lichtenburg Raceway and the finish line. At the designated service point, there was the usual chaos as the racers came in to have the small things that have been going wrong fixed or to have damage repaired to vehicles that strayed off the beaten path. Rowby sibling pairing Henry and Marisa Matten were second in Class D and were obviously comfortable there. While Musaji's team were frantically squirreling away, something that eluded them needed to be sorted out. But eventually, it was bombs away again. Gary Gillingham and Peter van Vuren don't just share a blood group, they also share the space in their bat and were 7th in Class A. Pikkie Labuskaghni and Rikus Erasmus were a solid 5th in Class D. But there was no doubt the rough and tumble of the dust and the heat and the twisting route was exacting a toll from drivers, cars and navigators.
The route marked well enough for you?
Yeah, it's marked very well, but it's very, very rough.
Yeah.
Very, very rough, yeah. Unbelievable.
And the same went for the motorbike racers who had to concentrate even harder. .200cc leader Bradley Engelbrecht's right leg worked overtime to get his charge going again. With the KTM crew going about their business very quietly. The 250 Yamaha rider Steph Venter was away efficiently. But Paul Wilson's open category bike sounded just a little rough already. Some guys still had time to horse around, while others had no time. In the quad bike section, ATV Power Sports Jean Brett set the pace overall and in the Pro 450 class. And they say there's no glamour in the sport. While his teammate Gerrie Prinsloo wasn't too far behind. Brett saddled up and took it out hard yet again. The Rustenburg 200 brought to you by Lichtenburg and Rustenburg Toyota Wimpy and the Van Vuren Group continues after this.